Wasabi guys, Void here, coming back at you all with another video. This time we're going to be talking about the Ixalan storyline. It is quite interesting, but yet it seems like a little bit more of the same thing. It's kind of the same structure when it comes to the story that we've had here, especially with these two set blocks the past couple years. With the exception of, say, Battle for Zendikar. The story for that was kind of different. It was kind of chaotic from the start. You went there and automatically had to deal with Ulamog and all of them. Shadows over Innistrad onward, it's kind of been the same kind of story structure. It's about exploring and evaluating the situation, and then the second set in the block, shit hits the fan. So my prediction, before I get into any details of the story, if you want the gist of what I feel like is going to happen, Ixalan is going to be about exploration, it's going to be about evaluating the situation, it's going to be about, why are the characters here, what are they doing, what's all this about. And then the second set, which is Rivals of Ixalan, it's going to be where the shit hits the fan. The interesting thing about that, though, is that you have two main themes that are going on here. You have dinosaurs, and then you have the Aztecs and the conquistadors. It's kind of interesting, and it's very weird, and it's why a lot of people are kind of unsettled about this set. That doesn't make sense to them. It doesn't make much sense to me either. So the whole story can go in either direction, really. You know that there's a card already in this set where you have like the meteor storm and you have the dinosaurs dying, and we know that happened in real life, but we also know the Spanish Inquisition happened in real life also, and the conquistadors, they defeated the Aztecs and took over their land. They conquered them, basically, and either or of those things could happen. I don't know which one's going to happen. You know that both can't happen for obvious reasons. So it's very kind of puzzling, which one's going to happen. I think that's very interesting, though. It could be one whole storyline where, something was tampered with the plane, and the dinosaurs and the Spanish vampires were never supposed to happen or something. Who knows? But it's very weird, and just the storyline is kind of odd. So let's start off with the very first episode. And we sort of get the follow-up of what happened to Jace after the events of Hour of Devastation. He essentially got mind-crushed by Nicol Bolas in that final fight where he tried to invade Nicol Bolas's mind, where he tried to get one up on him. Turns out he's a lot more difficult than you thought. All that training and proving your skills and as being a mind mage, it doesn't really amount to anything when Nicol Bolas has spent a millennia of just being bored and doing things for his own interest. And I mean, he's had a lot of more time than Jace to prepare himself, and that's what he does. He's all about preparation, and he's just gonna beat Jace one-on-one every single time when it comes to telepathy and anything like that. So Jace, he basically is cast away, just like the Tom Hanks movie. He's on this island. The only difference is that his mind is erased. He has little to no memory of who he was or anything in his past life. He knows like actual things like, he knows like what water is, he knows what fire is, he knows what certain animals are, he knows what like certain things like magic are. But he doesn't know any specifics about himself, which is very interesting because it goes on and into episode 3, we'll talk about it later, but his memory loss does impact the rest of the story. And the cool thing about it is that he does something. He doesn't know exactly what planeswalking is because he forgot what that is, but it seems familiar to him, so he tries to do it, but only to find out that there's this sort of binding, which is an actual card in the set, Ixalan's Binding. It's what's preventing these planeswalkers from planeswalking away. You could say it's sort of like a trap, maybe a construct of Nicol Bolas, who knows, but he can't get away. He tries, he can't, and other planeswalkers have the same problem too, which we'll get onto later. But Jace is basically he's stuck, and he's helpless. He doesn't know what he's doing, so eventually he just gives up trying to remember, and he tries to replace those thoughts with something constructive, and he tries to survive on this island, which he will start to call a useless island, but because he gets frustrated, and he tries to start a fire, which is probably the coolest thing, is that when he tries to start a fire, he almost gets there until his sticks break and he can't make the fire anymore. So then he's like, well, maybe if I can make illusions, or maybe if I have this magic, maybe I can make the fire just appear if I will it. So he actually does, but he actually thinks it's a real fire. So he gets a fish and he tries to cook it, only to find out that the fish isn't changing temperature because the actual fire itself isn't real. It's an illusion that he created, but he doesn't know this yet, that it's not just his will to create things, it's just an illusion. They're not real. They're manifestations of magic. So he soon just accepts this, he gets frustrated, and he thinks he's going insane until he actually realizes that these are just full-fledged illusions, and that's his magical ability to do all these things because he is a mind mage. He has those powers, and he just realizes that. So all these characters who he thought were just, him going crazy and delusional, getting seasick or something, who knows, it was actually his own illusion. So he actually references Ajani, he references Soren, he references Tamio as characters who were talking to him, and he doesn't actually know their names, but he recognizes them somewhat. And the funny thing is that, I guess, to kind of get a knowledge of his surroundings, he goes around the whole island, and you'll actually notice this on the land cards, the basic lands. You'll see Jace exploring this island. It's not Ixalan, but it's this island on the same plane. It's kind of funny too, because he would have run into some dinosaurs probably if he were going around an island. Chances are you were going to get snatched up, and you're going to be made some dinosaur food there. Maybe that particular island didn't have any dinosaurs, so essentially he tries to get off that island. So he makes himself a little raft or whatever, and then he goes off to sea, and eventually he sees in the distance there's another island. Hopefully it's a better one. Turns out he crashes, and he's on a rock, and there's a bunch of bird shit, and he's complaining about the bird shit, but then he falls asleep for like a whole day, and there's just like birds and reptile birds and shit just annoying him, and he just can't wake up because he's so tired and he's so exhausted, and he's probably malnourished. But at the same time, they make a note of describing him as being just muscular and buff now because he's had to depend more on his physical traits rather than his mental ones on his experience here on Ixalan so far. So then we have Braska, the pirate Braska, who shows up here. We don't know her purpose yet in episode 1. So she looks on the shore of that island, and she's like, oh, I know who that is. That's Jace. And she basically is just like, Bolarin, I'll make your death quick and painless if you tell me who you're working for. She basically threatens him, but he doesn't really give a shit because he's probably dying of thirst and hunger. So that's basically how that episode ends. Moving on to episode 2, we have Huatli, the warrior poet, or whatever her name is. I don't really care. Their names are really weird. It's supposed to be like Aztec or whatever. I don't really care about pronunciations. It's all made up anyway. So she's essentially a knight for the Sun Empire, which is the empire for Ixalan, where you have all these dinosaur lovers, tree huggers. They're based off the Aztecs, and they worship the sun. They're sun worshippers, essentially. That's why they call themselves the Sun Empire, and they credit the sun for all the things that they're capable of doing. I'm not going to completely just laugh at the notion of someone worshiping the sun, but, it's not something I would waste my time doing. So basically, it starts off the story and kind of implies at the beginning of the story here that Huatli and her cousin Inti, who is another good warrior, they basically just fought off these vampire conquistadors, which are called the Legion of Dusk, and they bring back the sword. I guess this is the first time they've encountered them. So Huatli goes back to the Sun Empire, going to meet the Emperor. So she wants to bring back the sword just to let them know the threat and everything like that. She's greeted by people outside of the Empire, and then people are anticipating that she's going to be the warrior poet. She's not actually the warrior poet yet. In the Azcanta or the Aztec or whatever they call themselves, I don't even know what they call themselves. For some reason, being a warrior poet is something special. I don't know why knowing poetry is that great, but apparently she prides herself on her poetry. And she gets in front of all these people and she says a little poem. I guess they praise like the sun or something, or other dinosaur gods, or who knows what the hell they're talking about. But Tililani or Killanani, or the different names, I don't even know what they mean. But she says these names and, oh, thank you for, such and such. And she basically just sings their praises for whatever reason, I don't know. And then basically the Emperor, Apetzek or whatever his name is, he basically just, praises her. Oh, look, she's a good warrior and everything. But she doesn't receive the whole helm or the title of the warrior poet like a lot of people were expecting her, and especially she was getting her heart set on the whole warrior poet thing, and when the emperor didn't give it to her, she kind of got a little upset there, and she basically goes off on her own little adventure with Inti, her cousin again, and then they see off ashore, they see like a ship, and it's of the Brazen Coalition, which is the pirates, not the conquistadors, but the pirates, comprised of goblins, orcs, and humans. Those are all the Brazen Coalition. And I guess the sirens too. Yeah, there's sirens and maybe merfolk. I don't think there were too many merfolk pirates. I don't think I saw any. But yeah, the Brazen Coalition, a ton of different species of the coalition there. And so the ship's there. Whatley thinks it's a good idea to light it on fire, so they light the ship on fire, and all the shipmates are running out of there, and they're all panicking, trying to put the fire out. Whatley tells her cousin, you know, oh, you flank them, or something like that, and then they all get out there, and then they're panicking, and then she tries to go in for the kill. Funny thing is, though, there's this other planeswalker dude who's also a pirate, the Dread Pirate Angrath, or Engrath, whatever his name is. Again, magic names before we actually know the actual pronunciations that Wizards wants to show us here. That would be helpful, but until we get those, it's kind of guessing work. So essentially, this dude's just a badass Minotaur, and he has like this glowing chain, and it's sort of like Ghost Rider type of deal here, where you have the chain. That's what it really reminded me of. But essentially, this dude's just an asshole. He basically chains up Whatley's dinosaur that she's been riding this whole time, and basically snaps its neck with the chain. So she's pissed off, like the environmentalist she is, and tries to go in for the kill, and she just gets kind of knocked back. But oh wait, her Planeswalker Spark ignites at this time. The Angrath pirate, he notices this and is like, oh, you can help me get off this island. She's like, no, screw you. You just killed my dinosaur. I don't want to have anything to do with you. And she stabs him, and then he's all like, he yells, and they run away. Inti and Whatley, they manage to escape. And then she returns back to the Emperor, tells the Emperor, hey, I had this vision, because she had a vision, which was kind of interesting. It happened to be Kaladesh, but only we know it's Kaladesh. They think that it's the golden city of Braska, because it looked like it was gold, but it was metal, actually. They didn't know the difference between an all-metal city and just a gold city. Happens to be Kaladesh. They may not be wrong. They may have some sort of affiliation with Kaladesh that we don't know about yet. It is kind of interesting to kind of see how it's all intersecting here with Nicol Bolas, and you know it has to be associated with this city of Braska and the whole plane of Ixalan, and why we're here in the first place. So that's pretty cool. So then, after telling the Emperor this, Whatley is finally given the goddamn helm of the warrior poet, because they wouldn't shut the hell up about this whole warrior poet crap. Finally, she's given it, and that's pretty much where the story ends. The whole to be continued. She is sent off to the city to try to find the lost city of Braska, which is kind of funny because she doesn't even know if it really does exist. She just saw the vision of it. And in order to become officially the warrior poet, she was just given the helm. She has to actually find and locate this city, which is like, how did anyone else become warrior poets in your culture, asshole? Did they have to go and find this fucking city? What did they have to do? Did they have to do something as equally impossible? But anyway, the storyline, I wouldn't say it's as exciting as Hour of Devastation, but so far, it's kind of funny. Which leads us to episode 3. The final episode I'm going to be talking about, and then I'll make a follow-up that pretty much includes the rest of the story. So basically, they go over the whole story, why Braska was sent to Exelon in the first place, and go figure it was Nicol Bolas. He has his hand in literally every single deal in the multiverse, it seems. And he basically gave her an offer she couldn't refuse, literally couldn't refuse, because there was almost no scenario where I think that Bolas would have let her live, even if she refused. He could easily just brainwash her and control her mind that way. They had this funny little interaction. I have a deal with you, Braska. If you go to the plane of Ixalan and find the lost city of Braska, basically you cast a spell that communicates with my associate and lets them know that you're at that center of the city. It's likely Tezzeret or Ralzeric or whoever it is. Wouldn't be surprised to see him. And she's like, oh yeah, sure, I'll accept this. And then she says in her mind, dumb bitch, she didn't even know that Nicol Bolas is a telepath. You know, he can read your thoughts. Probably shouldn't be thinking anything like that. I can always double cross him if things go south. He hears that because he's a telepath. She doesn't know that. And he's like, no, you cannot. You cannot double cross me. And he's not even mad. He's just like, I know you're kind of an opportunistic bitch here. I'm gonna kill you if you try to double cross me anyway, because I honestly am not intimidated by you. Literally looks her right in the eyes, knows that she can turn people to stone. He's not even the least bit afraid. He's just a badass. I mean, be saying that to the day I die. So the funny thing about it too is that he actually had to give her memories or give her the knowledge of being a pirate or navigating pirate ships, things like that, because apparently Nicol Bolas was bored enough for a millennia to figure out how to navigate a pirate ship. I always found that funny, that he takes his time to do all these little things that normally wouldn't matter to us. We kind of prioritize knowledge in our brains. We don't really typically care about the little things, but being a super intelligent telepath that he is, he has all this room in his head for all these different things, and he stores all this information, so no doubt about it, he knows how to navigate a pirate ship, even though he doesn't need to. So he basically transfers all that knowledge to Braska so she can become a pirate and join the Brazen Coalition in order to find this city of Oraska, which is pretty cool, because her name is Braska, gonna find the city of Oraska. And then it continues on to where we left off at the end of episode 1. She finds Jace, basically threatens him. I'm gonna kill you, Jace, because I know you're Jace Beleren. And he's like, I've never met you before. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just cast away. I'm dying of starvation. If you want to kill me, go ahead. I'm probably gonna die anyway. I'm all sunburnt. I mean, that's true suffering there. Being stranded on a beach, you know, dehydrated, sunburnt. Oh man, that's one of the most miserable feelings in the world. Just dying of dehydration. Oh, and then just the salt in the air. I mean, salt only makes you more dehydrated. So essentially, she's just like, she feels sorry for him because he's not the same Jace that she remembers. She remembers the guild pack Jace on Ravnica that was so cocky and confident. And she's just like, I wouldn't even feel good turning him to stone and killing him. I wouldn't feel good. So she's an opportunist. She takes the situation and twists it to her advantage. She takes Jace on board her ship, which is called the Belligerent. Kind of funny. Essentially uses his skills for camouflage, things like that, so that she can ambush other ships as well, especially the conquistadors, which is kind of where the whole story ends. So far, we see him kind of help them with the camouflage, and then they ambush these conquistadors, and he also uses his illusion skills of making different versions of himself running around the ship, trying to distract as many of the conquistadors as possible. And by the way, I just love the whole flavor of the conquistadors. They're Spanish vampires, guys. They're Spanish vampires. Come on, Holmes, let me suck your blood. But yeah, I mean, they're freaking cool. And so they take over the ship and they kill all the vampires, and Braska ends up turning the captain, who has a stranglehold on Jace, turns him to stone, and Jace is like, oh, thank you, Braska. And then the whole story ends up with Braska asking Jace to join her crew full time, apparently. She takes a liking to him. So, Liliana, watch out. Your boy's getting played. But anyway, that's going to do it for this video. If you enjoy the story so far, let me know. Let me know your predictions. Let me know what you think is going to happen in Rivals of Ixalan. Let me know what you guys think about pre-release. Are you going to be going to it? It is supposed to be tomorrow, over the weekend, whatever your stores are doing. Definitely cool. I'm going to be going to pre-release. This will be like the first pre-release I've gone to since Battle for Zendikar. So that's pretty awesome. Anyway, you guys take it easy. Have a wonderful day. Void here signing off.